of urgently, and the government, Treasury must, of necessity, ensure that all the resources that are required for the Commission to discharge its mandate and everything that it needs to do, those resources are available, not piecemeal. Those resources are availed because some of the things that the Commission needs to do are long overdue. So the resources, I just hope that Mheshimiwa Pio and I has that sack of money just sitting somewhere kwa buti ya gari waiting to be delivered as soon as the Commission is concerned.
Look at it this way. We are looking, so what is now happening? Opiyo Wandayi is now a CS. Constitutionally, he ought to have dropped that position of being a member of parliament of Ugunja. To this date, it has not been declared vacant. That position has not been declared vacant. So what is now happening? So he's serving as a CS and a member of parliament at the same time?
No. Because it's the mandate of the Commission. Now the Commission is not fully constituted. The law says the chair of the Commission shall declare a vacancy. So we don't have commissioners. We don't have a chair.
So now what's
the
happening?
Secretariat CEO cannot announce a vacancy because that's not his mandate. It does not fall within the purview
in law. It's vacant.
It is vacant, yeah. Legally, it's vacant. The moment that he took up the role of the CS and he was sworn in, so automatically, legally,
so we have got two constituencies now,
not
lacking representation in parliament.
We have Magarini, we have Ugunja, and we have another one, if I am not wrong.
And, Reverend, when you listen to Justice Lenaole raising this concern, I really don't want us to speak on his behalf, but he started this discussion. What do you really think ran through his mind before he took that mic and said, Kenyans, listen, this is what I'm submitting. It's the issue of IBC. Because that's the question. What do you really think ran through his mind to date? I know you've talked about the issue of a lower court handling the matter, but a member of the apex court raising that concern that there is a problem here. But the political class can also not be excused fully.
Of course, they can't.
Go ahead.
So I think it's good, it's okay that Justice Lenaola decided to play the devil's advocate on this matter, because he is cognizant of the pressure, because that pressure will always escalate to the Supreme Court, and that's where he sits. And so what he's basically saying is ringing the alarm bells and saying, this is unnecessary. We don't need to take the nation through this, because at the end of the day, you will find so many, this thing will open the door to so many unnecessary litigations, because there are so many breaches of the Constitution and flagrant violation of constitutional rights of citizens that can easily lead to litigations, not multiple litigations. So it was right. It was only right that a judge of the Supreme Court raised that matter.
Yes.
And since then, there has been a sense of urgency. The political class have been discussing the matter in every forum, in funerals, in meetings, in rallies. The issue of IEBC has now taken the front line. So the fact that it's being discussed, I think, awakens the players and those who are supposed to ensure that this commission is in place to the reality that this thing is becoming urgent now to all Kenyans, not just a few who used to whisper once in a while or to mention in one forum of another. But now every Kenyan is talking, including people on social media, even those who don't really understand the mandate.
Yes. Because IBC today.
Exactly. That's now the power of social media.
Yeah.
Everybody now is talking about IBC. So it now mounts pressure on those who are supposed to make those tough calls to ensure that this thing is done.
I don't want us to be, But let's look at the end from the beginning. Let's look at 2027. Elections are here. The date is already announced, and we are going to the polling station, and here we are. With all these things happening, what would you, I know you're a reverend, but put that aside. What vision do you have for 2027 as far as election is concerned, with all this debacle that we're having?
You see, the election date is just one day and a culmination of so many events. So it's just like a tsunami that starts in the middle of the ocean. And innocent people are having their good time at Kenyatta Beach and enjoying themselves in Diani, in Hawaii, or wherever, in the Seychelles, Mauritius.
Let's talk about Rusinga Island as well.
Or Rusinga Island. And people enjoying themselves. But when the tsunami begins and gains momentum, by the time it arrives at the coast, that's when people feel the impact. So the election period or date is actually like the beach and the coastline. So this pressure that has begun will continue to escalate, will continue gaining traction. By the time it comes to 2027, the impact will be felt on the election. One, the credibility, it's likely to affect the credibility of the election. People are bound to raise so many questions about whether the commissioners who are put in place are actually genuinely for Kenyans, or they are there to do the bidding of the powers that be. So there are so many issues that can arise from the delay to put commissioners in place. Because people can say these ones were just people who are handpicked the last minute to do the bidding of the powers that be. So that has the implication of affecting the credibility of the election. And so all it will require will be just some little trigger, and things might not go well. So it's a very, we are treading on very dangerous and slippery ground as a nation, as far as the issue of IBC is concerned.
All right, we are coming to the end. I want to give you 2-3 minutes. It's been a good year. To some extent a tough one, generally for everybody, including the government. We've had our fair share. Maybe 2-3 things that you can take home this year. What lessons have you learned so far, up to where we are today?
Well, one thing that I have learned is that as a nation, regardless of the challenges that we are faced with, we've always managed to come through. We've always managed to come out. And that is the consolation that I have, that as a nation, it will always be well, because nobody really thought that we would be where we are today, especially in the aftermath of the Gen Z protests. Nobody really thought that we'd still have a nation left and a government in place, and still moving forward as a nation and growing stronger and stronger. So I have learned that growing a democracy is not easy. You know, while we admire other democracies that have been over 100 years in the making, we have to remind ourselves that we are just 60-something years old as a nation. So our democracy is still making its baby steps, and everything that is happening is important to strengthen our democracy, and for everyone to know, even in the days to come, that there are some things that are not out of the realm of the possible. For example, nobody thought that it would be possible to impeach a deputy president.
Exactly.
But it has happened in Kenya, and the country is moving on. So in the future, anybody who comes into government, if it is been possible to impeach a deputy president, it will not be impossible to even to remove a president from office. There's already an established, because it's the presidency, an established president.
Yes.
So in the future, we expect our democracy to become better for those who are charged with the responsibility of leading our nation to be conscious of the rights of the citizens. It's going to be helpful. So I think the protest did help to that extent, the call for accountability in leadership. And I think the president has almost been a lone voice in this. The cabinet secretaries, the majority of them are running around with their flags, but not many are speaking to the citizens. The president has become almost a lone voice in this. So that is one of the things that I have noticed. And it continues to be a concern. He himself did raise that issue. He expected that there would be so many others within the ranks of the executive and government speaking to the citizens, so that citizens are able to appreciate what government is doing. Because the reason people are saying the government is doing nothing, while the government is really doing something, is because there is a disconnect between the government in terms of communication and the citizens, so that for the citizens to conclude the government is doing nothing and yet the government is doing something, it means the citizens are not really being put in the loop. So it is something that I have learned, and I believe that it is something that can be corrected and will be corrected, and that citizens will begin to appreciate everything that is happening.
Thank you. All right. Very, very good. That's where we wrap it up. It's been 1 hour already, and we've done that.
Just like that.
It's been a good run, Reverend.
Yes.
Whole year. I want to thank you sincerely on behalf of my colleagues here at the Broadcasting House. This is my last show with you this year until next year, God willing.
Yes, sir.
And we just 30 seconds. Merry Christmas and your best wishes to your fellow Kenyans as well.
Well, my fellow Kenyans, it has indeed been a great privilege for me to be here and to be able to speak to you. First of all, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2025, and to remind you to remain hopeful and to believe, because this is our country. Let us remain united and peaceful. Let us be respectful to each other. And that is the only way we can be able to move forward as a nation and to be successful.
Thank you so much. And remember, responsibility is also important, and we have to do things with moderation, right?
Yes, sure.
Very great. All right, we are taking a break, and we come back. I want us to talk about the issue to do with the Public Service Superannuation Scheme, which will be having its 3rd annual general meeting, and talk about that. Do you know anything to do with the superannuation fund and scheme?
No.
Have you prepared for your retirement?
I'm not planning to retire.
Oh, okay.
Planning to retire anytime soon.
Honorable Clifford Gamati in studio.
I'm still a small young man.
Come on. Come on. You need to prepare for your retirement. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. Good morning.
Thank you.
Say bye-bye to FOMO, the fear of missing out, by downloading the KBC Online app that gives you access to everything you love. Get the latest news, sports, music, entertainment news, live radio, and so much more at the palm of your hands. To get the app, simply search KBC Mobile Digital App in your Google Play or App Store and download the app. Catch what you want, anytime, anywhere. Stay connected. Stay ahead with KBC Mobile Digital App.
Born in Kawathe, Kangundo district in what is now Machakos County, in 1941, Ngutu went to the local Kawathe District Education Board School for his primary and secondary education. From an early age, Ngutu had a strong desire to serve in the disciplined and uniformed forces. He was recruited in 1966 while in his mid-20s and went to Kiganja Police Training College in Nyeri. He worked at various stations across the country and rose through the ranks to the position of Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations. Joseph Kimeu Ngutu was a police officer turned politician and had to fit in the shoes of mercurial politician and freedom fighter Paul Joseph Ngei. Ngutu was the beneficiary of Ngei's fall from power when he was finally forced to resign from his cabinet post and relinquish his Kangundo parliamentary seat in 1991 after being declared bankrupt by the High Court of Kenya. As soon as Ngei was declared bankrupt, Ngutu declared his interest in contesting the seat once it was declared vacant. He had retired as Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of Nyeri-based Kiganja Police Training College. He contested the seat in the subsequent by-election and won, becoming the second occupant of the seat since independence. He was appointed Minister for Labour, a position he held for about a year and a half until 1992 multi-party elections, in which he lost the seat to a political greenhorn, Joseph Wambua Mulusia, who ran on a Democratic Party ticket. The party was led by Mwai Kibaki. 5 years later, Ngutu made a dramatic comeback. In the 1997 elections, he managed to win back the Kangundo seat. Ngutu once again became Minister for Labour, where he stayed for the next 5 years until the 2002 general election, in which he lost his seat. Some of the projects credited to Ngutu included the construction of health centres, Kawithe Secondary School and coffee processing factories. He also encouraged farmers in agriculture potential areas to start coffee plantations. Ngutu worked as minister for just about a year before the 2002 general election, when he lost his seat to Moffat Maithe, who contested via the little-known Sisi Kwa Sisi party. Jackie Wimbiru, The Cabinet.
Welcome back. It's now time for us to talk about the Public Service Superannuation Fund or scheme. How have you prepared for your retirement? I've just asked that question. How well are you prepared, or are you planning for your retirement? Okay, I've got two gentlemen who are going to help us talk about that. I have Chairman Wycliffe Ongamati, who is the chairman of PSSF, or Wycliffe Ongamati, joining me in studio. Chairman, welcome.
Thank you very much, Victor.
Karibu sana.
It's a big honor to be here.
Asante. And Dr. Jonah Ayebe, who is the CEO of PSSF, also joining me in studio. Dr. Karibu.
Thank you, Victor. Delighted to be here.
Asante. Let me start with you, Chair. And on a high note, it's the third year, and you are planning to have that conference tomorrow. Tell me more about it.
Thank you very much, Victor, and it's a very, very big honor for us to be here.
Yeah.
I think we are having our third annual general meeting. PSSF is a fund that gathers for retirement benefits for public servants.
Yes.
And when you talk about public servants, you're talking about the teachers, you're talking about the uniformed guys, you're talking about the typical civil servants in different ministries, and that is what PSSF is all about. And PSSF was formed by an act of parliament way back in 2012. However, the implementation of that act of parliament happened in 2021. So this scheme started operating in 2021. So this is our third annual general meeting of members. And because we are also regulated by the Retirement Benefits Authority, the Retirement Benefits Authority requires that on an annual basis, you must have an annual general meeting.
Yes.
To tell members.
Take stock of what happened.
Take stock of what happened that year. Tell members about their benefits, what they have accrued, and basically give them an idea of how the investments are happening.
Yeah.
So that is what we are doing tomorrow at that annual general meeting of PSSF.
Venue and time?
The venue will be at KICC. We expect people to be there by 8 a.m. The chief guest is the Cabinet Secretary Treasury, Mbadi, whom we expect to be there by around 8:30. And then, of course, we have also other dignitaries. We have the Cabinet Secretary Public Service, the former Speaker, Muturi, will also be in attendance. We also have the Cabinet Secretary in charge of cooperatives, a very good friend of mine, Oparanya, will also be in attendance. So we expect that the whole thing will start at 9. Dignitaries, VIPs will probably be there by about 8:30. We expect most of the members, ourselves, and the trustees and the staff and members of the scheme to be there by about 8 a.m. at KICC. At KICC Center.
Okay. So, Dr. The chair has talked about the mandate. Let's talk about the membership and the structure of PSSF. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Victor. Just like the chairman did mention, Public Service Superannuation Scheme is a membership fund where we drew our members from the teachers employed by Teacher Service Commission. And we also have, as he said, the National Police Service employees, the Kenya Prisons employees, and NYS. Now, from commencement in the year 2021, we now have membership of about 443,000 members, and the number is growing. Anytime a new employee is recruited in public service, that automatically becomes a member, so long as they are joining on permanent and pensionable terms. Anytime a new teacher is recruited, we also increase our membership. And it goes on like that. So that is the structure of our membership. We have a big membership population, and the numbers keep on growing. And each of the member of this scheme makes a contribution to the fund. And they do a monthly contribution from their pensionable emoluments. At the same time, the government, who is the sponsor of this scheme, makes a contribution. So this nature of the scheme that we are running, Victor, is of the nature that we call the defined contribution scheme. So defined contribution scheme because the contribution rates are defined. They're actually predetermined in advance. So really the current rates that are applicable is 7.5% for the employee contribution, and the sponsor, which in this case is the government, contributes 15%, making a total of around 22.5% of pensionable emoluments that comes to the fund on a monthly basis for the 443,000 or thereabouts membership. So that's how the structure is operating. And we pick these funds, invest them, give them a return, which we'll be mentioning what we're going to declare tomorrow. And once we declare the return, we grade it to the membership accounts. So we maintain accounts of each and every member so that we are able to track their contributions and the employee contributions, the employer's contribution, and eventually we give credit in terms of interest declared as per policy, and eventually it works towards paying for their retirement benefits.
400,000 plus membership, that is a huge number.
Yes,
so
sir.
what role does it play in the retirement benefits? I mean, it's a very big industry, so to speak.
Yes. One of the critical things in any economic development is adequate provision of social security of the population. So we play a fundamental role in widening the coverage of people who are provided with social protection and social security.
Yes.
So that's from the global perspective. So the key element for every organization is to see how many people are actually covered by the social security provision. So we feel in that space, and it's a very interesting thing because when people are in service, they are used to earning a monthly pay. But upon retirement, it can create a shock.
Yeah.
So this now becomes a transition, and even it actually gives them a quality of life post-active service, because they're able to get the same or more or less replacement income that can sustain or bring closer to the standard of living that they had while they were in service.
Yeah.
So that's the key thing why we really have to focus on this investment and touching the economy in terms of, beyond even that, we are mobilizing resources which can be invested again in Kenya as we wait to pay out.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've talked about that. I just asked my guest who just left the studio whether he's planning to retire. He said he's still young to retire.
Yes.
That would really be something to admire. But then, Chair, would you please just highlight some of the achievements that PSSF is actually making, or what it's impacting to the members or the public servants?
I think Victor, it's important to understand the background of why PSSF was set up. If you know very well, Victor, in this country, pension for civil servants has been a very big problem. I'm sure, I don't know what your background is, but if you have a parent who has been a civil servant and retired,
of course, yes,
they struggle.
A strict one for that matter.
So, Victor,
yes,
what has been happening over the last 40, 50, 60 years since inception of the government is that at any time the government has never put money aside for payment of pension benefits for retirees who have been civil servants in this country. And what the government has been doing is that they budget, the normal budget, put money in the budget and say this year the number of guys who have retired are X number. The pensions that we need to pay to these guys is about 100 billion Kenya shillings. Put 100 billion Kenya shillings in that budget for that financial year, then pay people. So as you retire, there is no money that has been put aside for you in respect of your benefits. And that has been happening since then. So then the government, I think when you look back, then I think it was Kibaki's government, then took a decision and said, look, we can't continue like this. We must come up with a fund to start putting aside money so that you, when you retire, Victor, there is money somewhere that you can come in and quickly you're paid. And that's what happened. And that's why now then they passed an act in 2012. And that act has then been now implemented in 2021. Yeah. Starting 2021, as John has mentioned, is where now we started putting aside 7.5% contributions on employees. They were not doing anything before that. The employer, which is the government, now putting aside 15% consistently since 2021. Now building a fund so that when these members come to retirement, they can then have their benefits. Today, if a member of PSSF retires or leaves service, it will take us, John, about 2 weeks. Yeah. Because the money is there. Yes, 2 weeks, then they'll be paid. But we have not been having the same, the same sort of level of efficiency when it comes to the, the back years when we didn't have a fund. So fundamentally, that is why this scheme was set up. And that is why we are saying that the government of Kibaki at that time, passing that act, was a noble idea. Secondly, the government of Uhuru implementing this in 2021 was a noble idea. And that is why this fund was set up. And just to add to what John has mentioned, this fund has huge benefits. Apart from just the retirement benefits, today if somebody passes on in service, they will be, the dependents will be entitled to benefits. When somebody passes in retirement, the dependents will be entitled to pension. So there are all these benefits that come along. But more fundamentally,
are benefits automatic?
Yes,
To membership.
Yes, to membership, yes, because the act specifies, the regulations specify the level of benefits for the member. It also specifies the level of benefits for the dependents. So it's very clear.
Yeah.
But that aside as well, just to add to what John has mentioned, Victor, this scheme is raising the level of saving in this country. You know, we're not very good, Victor. Even today, if I ask you today, how much are you saving for your retirement? Yes, you asked a guest here, but if I come back and ask you the same question, you'll struggle, Victor. And I think it is important as a country. We appreciate that any country that has moved on and become a middle class economy, the level of saving is very important. Just to give you in percentage terms, in Kenya, the level of saving is about 6%. That 6% as a percentage of the GDP of this country. But when you look at Europe, or you look at Malaysia, or you look at even South Africa, the level of savings is about 20 to 25%. So we are aware of. This fund is also helping us raise that level of saving as a country. We are pulling resources together. We get this money. Yes, it's being invested, but it's also having a direct impact on the economy, because this money is being either lent to government to do its projects, it's being used to buy into companies who want to expand. So it's having a huge impact, and that's why we are saying it is important that we raise our level of saving.
All right. I'll come back to the issue of contribution. You talked of 7.5% and 15%. That brings around 22. Can a member contribute more, even if you wish, or less? To play around with the figures. But before that, how have you performed financially? Because it's one of the biggest issues in any organization. Because members would want to know how are they performing over the years.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor. I know Chairman did mention that tomorrow is the day of accountability and report to our members in terms of the annual general meeting. And one of the things that we'll be sharing with them is the performance. So it's very critical that you have actually asked the same. The scheme has performed pretty well. One of the key parameters that we measure in terms of performance is that are we able to collect the contributions as prescribed by the law? Are we able to get the contributions from government? And the answer is yes. For the entire financial year, we have received what government had pledged to give, which is a very, very exciting thing. I mean, we receive contributions from the sponsor, the National Treasury, for the employer's portion, and we do not have a challenge on the same. The second thing is that members have been very kind to give their contributions again. Regularly, the 7%. The 7.5% has also been coming on time, and the 15%. So when all this is put together, the Board of Trustees, under the guidance of the Board of Trustees and our investment managers, we have invested these funds. And Victor, the good news is that by the close of the year of 2023-2024, that is 30th June, the return that we are going to declare to credit to members' accounts tomorrow is 11.9%, which is fairly well because we have done a diversification. And this money, let me just put it this way, it's not like a dividend that we'll send M-Pesa to members, but we'll credit to their accounts because it will work towards improving their retirement package. So that's how the performance has been. Yes.
You talked to the National Treasury, and you know, as it's like Siamese twins. You cannot separate the two.
Correct.
So how is the fund, the scheme actually, PSF, also contributing to the national agenda in terms of development?
Very well. I will add to what Chairman did mention. One of the key things for any development is mobilization of savings. So where to begin with is we are a catalyst to mobilizing the required savings for investments in this economy. So when you can imagine that 22.5% for over 443,000 membership. When that is put together, we do participation in the capital markets of this nation, so it catalyzes the investable capital.
Yeah.
It becomes a source of the highly needed capital for investments, whether in the property sector, whether in the equity markets. So we are able to catalyze the investments that are actually taking place in this country. And in the same sense, the more you do more investments, it creates opportunities of employment, it creates taxable levels. So we contribute indirectly to the fiscal requirements of government. We also contribute directly to creating employment as we do these investments.
All right.
Yes.
Chair, in the beginning there was word. And word is everything in the beginning. So how do you engage your members, apart from having annual general meetings, to actually get to understand what development is happening, the feedback, and how you can actually even develop the scheme further? What mechanism do you use?
Victor, very, very, very important. And one of the things that, I was appointed chair, I think June this year.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we sat down with John and agreed that we must enhance what we call member education. Member education, so that people can understand what is the need for them, how we are running the scheme, the performance of the scheme, and there are a number of things. One is that even recently we had a member education exercise across the country where we are visiting regions, and I think we had divided the country into sort of the old provinces and walked around meeting members and explaining. The second, of course, is that there's a lot of information online. And of course, with this evolution of IT, there's a lot of information online. Members can go online, check their benefit statements, check what the contributions they have made, check the contributions that the government has made on their behalf, check the interest that we have credited over time, and basically understand today that as at now, say as at end of 2024, this is what I've contributed, this is what the sponsors contributed, this is the interest that has been credited. So there's a lot of information online, and we want to enhance that. And then of course we also have a lot of webinars talking to members about what is happening. So a lot of forums to educate, and maybe Jonah can add on it.
And even as you respond to that, what's the feedback like? What's the response?
The most important thing, Victor, is if you are doing an investment, you need to know what is going on in it. And I cannot overemphasize what Chairman has actually mentioned, because it is the right for members to understand their scheme. And what we have actually decided to do is to use so many channels, including the social media. We are always in matters like YouTube, we are actually in Facebook, and we receive feedback. We post the developments in the scheme, and members have a right to ask questions. And we have a dedicated team from our office that responds to all those queries. So communication can only be complete when we give the feedback. So we have, other than the physical meetings that we met members in the regions, we also leverage on technology, we leverage on the social media systems, and part of what we're even doing this morning is part of sensitization of the bigger population of members. It is true that we may not bring all the 443,000 members in one room, but we are able to reach them through where they are. So we partner with employers like the Teacher Service Commission. In their newsletter magazines that they run, you will find that we are present at that point, and we are able to tell members what they're doing. When they understand their role or the benefits that they have in the scheme, it actually motivates, it actually gives them the strength to continue serving as a public servant even better.
See, the issue of trust is very important.
Yes.
And I know members are now watching.
Yes.
How do you ensure accountability and transparency, set by RBA?
Absolutely. We are in a very highly regulated environment, and beyond even the regulations. Remember, we are the governors, the head of the governors in our system are trustees. So the word trust is even embedded in terms of the nature of governance that we have. And for you to be a trustee, they have what we call in technical terms fiduciary responsibility. Somebody who can really think of taking care of another person's asset better than their own. So we are run by a board of trustees, not a board of directors. I'm not saying the board of directors are at a lower level, but the trusteeship, you are expected to be at a higher level of calling than even the directorship. So we have embedded this. It's a board of trustees. So everybody is expected to perform their duties and fiduciary responsibility to the benefit of the members. So that is what we have invested in. And so far with the team that we have at the Board of Trustees, I am not almost to see anything that can breach that trust. We have actually built the trust to the members, and we are coming with accountability. Like tomorrow when we'll be accounting about what we have done, it is an open system.
Great.
It is the members' funds.
Trust is very important.
Yes, very important.
What's the future like for this scheme?
No, the future is very, very bright for PSSF. Before even I talk about the future, it's important to appreciate that as we speak now, the total assets of the pension industry in this country is about 2 trillion Kenyan shillings. PSSF is at about 150, 160 billion Kenyan shillings as we speak over just the last 3 years. We are the second largest scheme in the country after NSSF. Now, looking at the way this scheme is progressing, I see it that it will be the biggest scheme in the country in the next couple of years, maybe 5, 6 years. It will be one of the biggest schemes in the country. So the future is very, very positive in the sense that it's helping members to mobilize resources and savings for their retirement. And it is likely to be the biggest, so it will contribute very strongly to the GDP of this country, contribute very strongly to creation of employment and have a real economic impact. So the future is very positive. Thirdly, just to add to what Jonah said, the governance framework that we have in this country for pension fund schemes is very rigorous, high regulated. We have a regulator in place called RBA. Then you have service providers. So today, as trustees, I as the chair, we don't handle money. The money is held by the banks. You have investment advisors who advise the trustees on where to put money. You have custodians who hold the money, the physical money.
So it is safe.
It is safe.
Members, your money is safe.
It is important that we say that it is safe, because today you have trustees sitting there. Then you have Jonah, who is sort of like the secretariat helping us. But this money, when it comes in, like now, when the government or when members pay those contributions, they go direct to the bank, to the custodian. That custodian will only release money based on the advice of the fund manager, who also doesn't control the money. He only gives advice, and then we make that decisions to then now move that money wherever it sits. So the governance framework of a pension fund schemes, and I want to say this without any fear of contradiction, Victor, I don't think there's a sector in this country that is very well regulated as the pension industry.
Does it mean that you deal with the civil servants?
Sorry?
Does it mean because you deal with the civil servants?
No, it's the entire industry. It's the entire industry, Victor. There is no, in my own view, and you know, Victor, when you see me as a former governor. But now I'm talking as an actuary, because I've been in this industry. There is no industry in this country that I do believe, maybe banking sector to some extent, but there's no industry that is very well regulated as the pension industry in this country. So the governance framework is very solid. So just to add to what you asked, John, but coming back to your question of the future of this fund, very bright. We can see, and we must say thank you to government, because government has consistently contributed. People can say, government will not contribute, but over the last 3 years, we have not had NRS. Government has consistently contributed to the enhancement of members' benefit.
Thank you. See you in under 10 seconds. What should you expect tomorrow?
Very interesting members and viewers. Tomorrow will be a great day. It's a time of accountability. It's a time when the Board of Trustees will be reporting to members. We expect members who will be joining online or physically to participate. And the way of participating is to ask questions, seek clarification about their scheme, and also it is an opportunity that we can be able to give suggestions in terms of what we can do going forward for this scheme. So it is a very, very great day in the calendar of our pension fund that we'll be able to meet with members, and we look forward to having all of you joining through any means, either virtually or coming physically to KICC amphitheater, of course, beginning at 9, as Chairman did mention.
Great.
Yes.
CEO Jonah Ayebe, who is the CEO of the Public Service Superannuation Fund, and Honorable Wycliffe Ongamati, who is the chairman of the same fund, joining me in studio. Members, make sure that you be there tomorrow and have your voice heard. If you're a member, make sure that you be there at KICC starting 8 a.m. Be there and get seated. All right, that's where we wrap it up on Good Morning Kenya. My name is Victor Lo. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Yasira shakufa.
Hayuko nyanya, hayuko.
Ati nini?
Hivi kumbe mtu weza kulala ukiamka ukifungua macho ukuta umekufa?
Ndio Mungu kimwangalia ana upungufu wote wa kiafya huyo.
Upungufu si lazima wa afya, unaweza pungukiwa hata akili.
Unasemaje?
Nani nakwambia kwa huko ndani ya nyumba yangu kuna kazi ukija utaajiriwa?
Ninakuona tangu asubuhi umeamka hauna raha. Kwani kuna shida yote?
Nahisi kama kuna kitu kibaya kitafanyika.
Sasa mbona wa mzigo mwanamume wewe ubebeki?
Mimi nimekuwa mzigo. Chumba chake kimejaa harufu ya kifo.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Early morning at Faza Island in Lamu East Sub-County, Lamu County. A team of safari doctors offload equipment and drugs from a dhow to a speedboat en route to Kiwayuchandani Island. A speedboat reduced the hour, although would have taken to just 15 minutes. At Kiwayuchandani, villagers come out of their makuti thatched houses and converged under a baobab tree, anxious at the arrival of safari doctors. In an area where hospitals are scarce, this once-in-a-month medical outreach is a savior.
Na hii kijiji ni kijiji ambacho inaitwa Chandani na iko kando na mji yote. Kwa hivyo usafiri pia ni ngumu kama ni Lamu. Sisi tunagaramika kwa ukubwa.
Mimi nakwambiavyo ni mgonjwa wa sukari. Unaona? Kwa hivyo ndio mimi usaidizi wangu napata dawa hapa kwa safari dokta za mwezi. Mpaka utakapokuja tena ndio mimi nipache tena madawa.
We take another speedboat ride to Medina, and although it took only 5 minutes, nightfall can worsen a medical emergency here.
Wakati wa usiku sasa, hapo ndo kuna kizaazaa. Kama unashikwa na ugonjwa hapo kwa ya kigafla ni mpaka asubuhi. Hatuna pikipiki, hatuna lolote hapa.
But that is not the only challenge for this Boni community.
Tuna shida ya network. Kuna NPR, mimi wa kwanza ni NPR. Ni mfanyakazi wa serikali, ni macho wa serikali. Sasa pia hata mwingine unaweza tokea dharura, siwezi jisaidia kwa simu.
Our next destination is through the mangroves to Kiangwe, a small village also within Boni Forest. The only dispensary here cannot cope with its growing population, and for pregnant mothers, Fatuma Shizo, a home-based midwife, is their only hope during such emergencies.
Nikiona shida ndio ninapiga simu kwenda kumpeleka Lamu au nitamleta hapa, dokta mwenyewe apige simu tuletewe ambulance pelekwe Lamu.
Pregnant women who attended the outreach were lucky to receive scanning services. The cost for this mode of transport is prohibitive, especially when one seeks special treatment all the way to Lamu town and the King Fahad Referral Hospital.
Ukienda na slow boat kutoka Lamu mpaka Kiwayu ni masaa kama 4 kwa slow boat, lakini speed boat kutoka Mokoe kutoka Lamu mpaka Kiwayu ni masaa 2.
Besides humans, the safari doctors' medical camps have benefited animals, mostly donkeys, which are the common means of transport in Lamu.
We always do vaccinations according to their regimes. We have rabies, which is a very big problem in Lamu, where they are mostly animals attack human beings, especially the children. So hapo watu tunafanya vaccination so that we avoid the spread.
Safari doctor kila wakati naleta punda hapa nyumbani hapa, wanakuja wananitibia, wananidungia, wananipatia dawa ya minyoo. Sasa mimi naona ni vizuri ya kwamba ukiwa ni gharama ningeenda Lamu.
As such, this medical outreach by safari doctors is such a necessity.
Lamu is a unique space. Actually, for Lamu particularly, the issue is transport. Na ndio maana tukaitwa safari. Si safari ya kwenda Mara, it's not a luxury safari, ni safari between life and death. People don't believe when you say you have to get on a speedboat, na ni like almost 1,50,000 if you're hiring for an emergency.
So many people in Lamu have benefited from this initiative.
10 years later, we are 18 staff, a few thousand patients a month. Incorporated also an education model, youth health ambassadors. Na hiyo sasa hivi ndio msingi mkubwa, like vijana lazima wawe kipao cha mbele katika masala ya afya. If you're talking reproductive health, if you're talking peer pressure, if you're talking, that critical age, early pregnancies. So we can't be talking about reproductive and maternal health if we're not using youth on the front line of community health workers.
The exercise complements government efforts to attain universal health coverage.
Let's really be intentional around designing healthcare model that goes all the way to that pastoralist all the way to that mother who can't get on that speedboat to access emergency healthcare.
Amid the excitement over the Social Health Authority, for Lamu East residents, their concern is how this new health scheme will address their unique challenges in availability and access to medical services.
Transport from one island to access quality health service at the referral hospital is the greatest challenge for a section of residents in Lamu County. To attain universal health coverage, Safari Doctors is appealing to the government to include mobile health service delivery. Reporting from Lamu County for KBC Channel 1, my name is Kasichana Masha.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Vivian Ndegwa. And right now we get into a conversation that is of so much importance. It is a very, very important conversation that should be had over and over again. Now, every single year from the 25th of November through to the 10th of December, we get to have 16 days of activism. It's a campaign against gender-based violence. And it is important because it is a campaign that aims at ensuring that the girl child is safe, where we try to speak against every vice that may come up in the sense of gender-based violence or where the woman is being violated. And as we get to finish off with the 16 days, today being the last day, it is only right for us to culminate this 16 days of activism by having this conversation. And joining me on set on my immediate left is Dr. Grace Githaiga. She is the CEO, Kenya ICT Action Network. Welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
All right, and right next to Dr. Githaiga, we have Quinta Mbori. Quinta Mbori is the Executive Director, Association of Media Women in Kenya. Welcome so much to the show.
Thank you, Vivian.
It's a pleasure to have you ladies on this show today for us to culminate this 16 days of activism by having this very needed conversation that, if you ask me, needs to be had over and over again, not just within the 16 days of activism. If I may begin by just getting to know from where you sit, what exactly is gender-based violence and what's the significance of us having these days of activism against gender-based violence?
I guess from me, I will focus more on technology facilitated gender-based violence because that is what KICTANET has been working on for many years. And I would start by saying that technology facilitated gender-based violence is that technology is an act of violence against individuals, but primarily women and girls, that is perpetrated and is assisted or amplified through the use of technology or digital platforms. So you realize that right now Kenyans have embraced technology, and there is such a high rise of uptake in technology, and with that rise, we have started seeing more and more cases of attacks, especially on women and girls, and especially if they hold positions in society. If say they are people who command leadership skills, they command respect. So you find that sometimes there is an attempt to attack them and then amplify that using social media and any other digital platforms.
All right.
Thank you, Vivian. Maybe just to respond to your first question, gender-based violence is any form of violence that is meted upon anyone because of their gender. So maybe I should also highlight that when you talk about gender, a lot of times there's an assumption that gender is equivalent to women. And I think we just need to debunk that myth that gender is actually, there's a whole spectrum of gender. We have male, we have female, and we have a lot of in between. So there are many forms of gender-based violence. They could be physical, they could be psychological, they could be economical. And now we are talking about technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Even sexual harassment is a form of gender-based violence. At the Association of Media Women in Kenya, which is the national outfit, the national face of all women in the media across all the 47 counties, we are very passionate about creating a safe space, not just for our members, but also for women in this country. We are currently implementing our strategic plan, and part of our thematic areas include sexual reproductive health and rights, which encompasses gender-based violence. As a matter of fact, we have a coalition of media partners called the Kenya Media Sector Working Group, which AMWEC, as we are popularly known, leads the Gender Committee to deliver to society a sexual harassment-free environment. We even have a model sexual harassment policy, which we are advancing and creating awareness and implementing in media houses in Kenya. The thing about gender-based violence, or sexual and gender-based violence, is that it keeps evolving.
And therefore, with the digital evolution, we have also realized that the harassment that used to happen offline, unfortunately, has moved online. Now, with the movement to the online space, and as Dr. has mentioned here, technology evolves at the speed of lightning. So what we're experiencing now is more harm, especially affecting the women, not just in Kenya, but globally. We are talking about 58% of women who will have experienced technology-facilitated gender-based violence, beginning from the age of 14. So the statistics are shocking. Hence, probably the discussion that we are having around 16 days of gender-based, 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, because we're talking about 1 in 3, those are global data. 1 in 3 women will have experienced gender-based violence by the time they're 18 years old. Now, 1 in 3, when you move to the space of technology, the numbers even go up. So this is a discussion that, as you've mentioned, rightfully mentioned, should form part of our daily agenda. It should not just be, moved to December, but because we know that media, unfortunately, does not pay a lot of attention to issues around gender. So we have to set aside certain days to not just highlight the issues that are affecting women around the gender, but also to take stock. Where are we? Are we making any progress? What do we need to do in order to experience a society that is not talking about gender-based violence in the 21st century?
Yeah. And still on that, on the technology-facilitated gender-based violence, yesterday we had the national conference on that, and maybe just what should be done in order for us to try and curb that. This is it's like a new territory. And as she said, it keeps evolving. So how do we go about it, especially for someone like you who is in tech? What should we look at in order for us to try and curb it now?
Yeah, we actually participated, Kiktanet participated in that as a panelist in the session that was looking at the impact of tech-based violence on elections and content moderation. And one of so there are several interventions that need to happen, and actually we are working on them. Now, with support, because Kiktanet doesn't have its own money. We basically rely on support from our partners who are drawn either from the international partners or even businesses that are our members. So currently, with the support of the UK government, we are conducting research, and this research is on technology. We want to look at what are the policy gaps, what are the regulatory gaps, because we can't just be speaking without evidence. We need evidence. So in that sense, whatever gaps will be identified, then those are the ones that will be used for policy advocacy, so that we are saying we need regulation, we need laws in this. The other intervention that we are working on, we are mapping schools of journalism and schools of law to look at the curricula and see if technology-facilitated gender-based violence is actually being taught in criminal law. And the idea is to start pushing this from that, from that perspective, that you are saying this is what needs to happen, and we need as journalists come out from the schools of journalism, that this this is an intervention that we need to make. The third intervention that we are working with is that we are part of the support from the UK government is to do digital skilling for young women, marginalized women, persons with disabilities, especially women from Busia and Mandera, before we open it up to the rest of the country. And what we are doing is that in that digital skilling, there's particular training on cyber hygiene. How do they keep safe online? How do they practice cyber hygiene, you know, in similar fashion like the way we did during COVID? You remember during COVID, nobody told us to wash our hands. It had become so normal. So we would get to a place, we would wash our hands, we would wear a mask, we would maintain social distance. So what we are saying is that we want people to start you know, practicing cyber hygiene. And in that also, because we are saying these are young women, and we've noticed young people are the ones who have really taken you know, uptick on digitalization. And we are saying they need to start that learning, that when you get an image of, say, Grace or Quinta here, who has been, you know, there's an image probably, and I keep saying, I don't know why women share their nudes when they're in love, because men don't. And you see that photo being exchanged, and you share it with your friends. You might think it is funny, but it is not funny. You are also participating in that violence. And so what has happened out of that is that there are issues of mental health. So we are finding that many young people are experiencing this. And so one of the interventions, again, that we have gotten support from the UK government is to look at, in level 5 hospitals, in this where people get mental health, do women, for example, report on tech facilitated violence? And if they do, what sort of interventions are there? If there are no interventions, then this is what we will be recommending. And we will be recommending that there needs to be policy that caters for this. There needs to be practice. There needs to have, you know, we need to have more people trained to address this, because what we have seen is that technology has actually brought in another level of mental health, and there are so many people suffering, sometimes suffering in silence, where we have seen women just checking out of social media. And you know, our argument is that no one has a right to get you out of that space, because the Constitution provides for you to, you know, that freedom in our Bill of Rights, for you to associate, for you to express yourself, for you to choose, you know, where you want to be. And it also provides you for you know, on your privacy. But even like the recent finance bill, we saw a lot of doxing, where information, numbers were shared of parliamentarians. And the sad thing is that when you talk, say, to members of parliament, ladies, they tell you, you know, what was shared with them. I think Millicent,
she talks about
about getting pictures of, you know, men sending, you know, their parts, and telling her, you know, they can excite her. I think Esther Passaris also talked about that, and she was like, you know, at least when you send one that, you know, can at least is, you know, is, and I think that was a very good way of responding. Again, that is an intervention. How do we train women, young women, to respond to such, so that they don't get out of these spaces.
To know how to stand up for themselves.
Yes, yes.
Know.
And I think I want to just highlight somebody like Betty Chalo. I think she has been very good in responding to that, and just managing to stay on these spaces. So those are some of the interventions that we are doing. But for like this particular week, we also had engagements. We had one particular thing that stood out for me is this meeting. Again, we had the deputy ambassador, British High Commission, with 5 girls from Kiktanet who spoke about technology facilitated gender-based violence. Those were girls between the years of 19 to 24, and 5 girls from an organization called TICO that offers them safe spaces. And it was just a very honest sharing. And I'm telling you, it was moving, because so many girls are going through that violence. They are sticking in relationships because they don't feel economically empowered to be on their own. Within those relationships, they've ended up having children, 2 children. Surely at 17 you have 2 children, and what actually emerged is that, one, we need multi-pronged approaches to this issue. So if an international organization is providing funding, to not just provide the money, but to also look at what other measures are necessary. For example, mental health, and also what needs to accompany these girls. So even if you train them, what next?
What's next after that?
Yeah.
And now to you, Quinta, you know, as someone who's in the media industry, you know, as the media, we shape perspectives. So maybe what role do we play in this, you know, when you talk about gender-based violence, in terms of our reporting, how should we shape this perspective of gender-based violence in a way that we are not elevating it? Because sometimes we are culprits to elevating it because of how we report about it. Sometimes you victimize the victim, you know, in your way of reporting. So how should we go about reporting matters GBV? You know?
Thank you very much, Vivian. Let me just put a disclaimer before I respond to your question, that digital media, or the digital space, is actually an enabler, particularly for women in the media. It is an enabler, and it has supported a lot of us, women in the media, to advance our causes, to advance our brands. It's a space where a majority of us have found economic empowerment in form of content creation. We have YouTube millionaires, we have TikTok millionaires, women who have actually come up because the digital space is sort of creates a level playing field for everyone, comparatively to what happens in mainstream, where over time it's always been male dominated, and it becomes very difficult for women to grow, you know, up the career ladder. So the digital space offers a great opportunity and a great platform for women, and particularly women in the media. But at the same time, it's become a hotspot for abuse. A serious hotspot. As a matter of fact, at Amwek, when we, on 25th of November, at the start of the 16 days of activism, we launched a research that focused on the TFGBV that affects women in public lives, in the limelight. So you're talking about women journalists, you're talking about politicians, women human rights defenders, lawyers. So all these people who are continually, you know, in the public space, doing whatever they do best, you know, working and supporting, you know, their causes. So maybe before I even respond to the role of media in terms of how we can come together to mitigate the effects of TFGBV, if you allow me to highlight just a few findings from that research, because it sort of like has a direct impact in the answer that I will give. Now, from that feedback, from the research findings, one thing that emerged was that 50% of the respondents said that they had been abused online by people who were strangers to them. So that 50% means that's a huge number, and that shows you how unsafe the online space is. The other thing that came out was that 40% of the respondents also thought that even though they thought TFGBV was wrong, they didn't think it was a crime. So that speaks to the issue around awareness, you know, digital literacy, media literacy, in terms of what TFGBV entails. And just borrowing closely from a research that I know Dr. Grace also participated in, that showed that in this country, in Kenya, we experience 1,000 cyber threats per second.
1,000 per second?
Yes, 1,000 cyber threats per second. And then when you do the math, it's actually, it's a lot of threats And it also shows a lot of increase over the, what has happened over the past, over the year in terms of TFGBV. Now, why am I bringing these figures up? Because ultimately, the media has a role. As you've mentioned, we shape perception. We inform the public, because without the media, the public cannot make informed decisions. So the media has a role to the public. We really have to give out the right information.
Yes.
We have to report ethically. We have to report in a gender-sensitive way. We have to report in a manner that is focused on the survivors, the survivor-centered, victim-centered. Unfortunately, that is not what we have experienced. I can comfortably confirm that we had cases of femicide in this country earlier in the year, and up until I think November, we were still experiencing big numbers of femicide happening. Waking up every morning with women who have been murdered by their partners and their loved ones, and yet the focus was so much on victim shaming, victim blaming, and even how the framing of the stories was quite questionable. And we are challenging the media organizations. I mean, we have our code of ethics in the practice of journalism. For avoidance of doubt, you can go to the Media Council of Kenya website. You will find a guidebook on that platform that shows us how we're supposed to do our job. And it advocates for principles such as balance, privacy, protecting the victim, promoting gender-sensitive reporting, all of that. What happens when we experience gender-based violence? And that also speaks to the issue of capacity. Maybe we need to, as civil society organizations, as governments, as sympathizers of GBV and TFGBV, we need to think around building capacity of journalists and media practitioners in terms of, because nobody will teach you in the media training school on how to report, sensitively. These are skills that more often than not you learn on the job. So strengthening and building capacity of journalists is one aspect that we can undertake as media organizations. And other than doing researches at the Association of Media Women in Kenya, the other thing we are very big on is strengthening capacity of journalists, strengthening capacity of women in the public space, politicians. As a matter of fact, we have recently conducted training on TFGBV for women journalists and also women human rights defenders. And this is something that we keep doing. We do it all the time because we are cognizant of the fact that the space where our members or women in the media are actually operating is not very safe for them. So we have to continually safeguard that space. So yes, we do researches. It's a big intervention plan for us and a strategy, because ultimately, just like Dr. said, without research, then we would be speaking from a point of, we would be speaking from, no evidence. But when you have evidence, then you're able to know the weight of the matters that we are dealing with. So research is a big deal. Strengthening the capacity of the messenger. How do we safeguard, how do we capacity build the editors, for example? They are the gatekeepers. Do they know what gender-sensitive reporting is? Do they know what TFGBV is? Do they know what femicide is? How do we report it? And how do we prioritize this to ensure that it is a continual agenda in our newsrooms? You don't have to wait until something happens. There's so much around sexual and gender-based violence, but more often than not, the media focuses on the bad news. We have gender champions. We have laws that some of them are working, not all of them are working. We have gender champions, we have regulations. There is so much that media can do in terms of just sustaining the reporting of sexual and gender-based violence instead of waiting for, an incident such as femicide to happen, and then we have pictures of many women on the front page and asking, how long are we going to kill these women? I think we need to change our strategy. And another thing that AMWIC does is we also offer skills, we offer tools that are accessible to everyone. For example, I just brought to studio, this is one thing that we have. A tool is called the handbook, Digital Safety and Security Handbook. This is a hard copy, but we have a soft copy on our website. Anybody can go to www.amwic.org and download this, because it has so much information in terms of what digital safety and security is, What are the threats? What are some of the measures that you can take when you're a victim, you're a survivor? What are some of the helplines, for example? Which resources can you use to access? So these are some of the things that we believe that if we are able to work together as a society, then we'll be able to mitigate this
and change that narrative.
Exactly.
And by the way, before we as we almost come to a close of this conversation, you know, time really runs fast. You know, when you talk about femicide, you know, there have been walks on femicide. You know, women just walking to just try and campaign against femicide. There's actually one that is supposed to happen today, actually. But when we talk about this, one thing that has been coming out, when people say protect your girls, people have been saying no, teach your boys. So where do we involve the men in this? How do we involve them in a way that this stops becoming a gender war and it's just a war against gender-based violence, you know? So where do they come in?
I think, just allow me to respond to that, but I wanted to just add to what Quinta has said as a very important intervention for journalists. You know, KICTANET in collaboration with International Association of Women in Radio and Television has a map that was developed by KICTANET, and journalists have been mapping from all over Africa, and we encourage Quinta, we even encourage AMWIC to also participate in that, mapping these cases wherever they happen. And the idea is to actually come up with a report on where it is prevalent and then what interventions are necessary. And in light of that, you know, there are actually very many cases, it's not just in Kenya. But in terms of the question that you have raised, one of the things that happens is that socialization must begin with our boys. So for example, I have a son and I have a daughter, and one of the things is that I have drawn the line. You, my son, has no right in this house to either think that you can slap your sister or you can be rude to your sister. You must stop that. If you notice the terms that are used to insult women, wacha umama, and then there's that big one, the one that starts with K, and you know, it's always being used with men. And I've always wondered why do men use terms that personify women to, you know, to insult. And so in light of that, again, as part of the intervention, we are developing actually a lexicon. And lexicons different, one in Somali, one in Luya, part of the support that I talked to with the UK government. But we are also doing one in Kikuyu, in Luo, in Swahili. We're doing 6 languages. Already we have commissioned people. And our learning is that actually, you bring men into this conversation before you start writing them. And because they are so on the social media, they have all these Kikuyu groupings, the Luo groupings, the Luo space. You know, get them to discuss these terms and also start socializing them. Let them come up with those terms that they use, and then we're including them in that lexicon, which then we will be using even on the ground for people who don't speak English. And I think that's one of the areas. But we must start socializing our young men from when they are young. And even when you have a husband in the house, when they use those terms, please put a stop to that.
Your final words on the same as we finish.
I think having male allies in this journey is a very big part and an important conversation that we need to have. In fact, media still has a role to play, you know, to bring those conversations to the fore. How do men discuss their gender vulnerabilities? How do we give them the opportunities and the space? For example, I know at AMWIC, one thing that we did is that we've had an engagement with men under a project where we brought them together to get for us to see things from their perspective in terms of mitigating sexual harassment in newsrooms. And some of the feedback that came from the discussions was actually good, because a lot of these things happen because of patriarchal attitudes we grow up, seeing things happen. We grow up seeing our fathers do certain things. And therefore, trying to dismantling those structures becomes a really difficult task. But when we have these conversations and we're able to empower them and we make them unlearn things that they learned before, and then we inject new information in terms of just creating, awareness around, because gender equality is a human right. It is not a battle of the sexes. It is a human right. These men have daughters. These men have wives. They have sisters. So we are advocating for the rights of the people that they care for, the people that they love. But something happens when it comes to the relationship with their loved ones, with their spouses, because that is where we draw the line with their colleagues. So ultimately, it's just to approach it from a human rights perspective. Let us advocate for the right of everyone, whether they are men or female. Yes.
All right, that's a nice way to end this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. And as we said, this 16 days should not be the end of us talking about gender-based violence. This is something that should be talked about over and over again, and we'll keep creating time to just have such conversations so that we also get to create awareness on it. Thank you so much, Dr. Gedaiga. Thank you so much, Quinta, for joining us on this conversation. This is where we end this particular talk, but don't you go too far. Mike Megwe will be coming up next with a different topic. Stay tuned.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Born in Olbutio, Chepalungu, Koech attended Sigimik Primary School before proceeding to Tenwek High School, also in Bomet District since renamed Bomet County following the advent of the 2010 Constitution. It is at Tenwek that he sat for his O and A-level examinations. He would excel and join Makerere University in Uganda in 1969. He would later graduate with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Economics in 1972. After his graduation, he worked as a high school teacher for 2 years between 1973 and 1975. At only 28 years of age, he would take the bold step to resign from his position as a teacher and contest for a political seat. His risk would fail to bear fruit as he failed to secure the position of Member of Parliament for Chepalungu, forcing him to return to his teaching job. Once he was back in the classroom, he was promoted to senior manager in the Provincial Education Office in Nyeri. He would once again resign ahead of the 1979 general poll to try his luck for the Chepalungu seat. This time, the odds appeared to be in his favor, and he was elected. And as fate would have it, he would then be appointed as Cabinet Minister for Public Works. His political fortunes would remain on an upward trajectory until 1989, when he was fired from Cabinet, expelled from KANU, and subsequently lost his seat as Chepalungu Member of Parliament to Kimunai Arap Soy in the ensuing by-election. His political misfortunes came about as he was accused of being disloyal to the president. He was out in the cold for a short stint before making a comeback in the country's first multi-party elections when he was elected Chepalungu Member of Parliament in the 1992 poll. He would remain in Parliament until 1997, when he dramatically resigned. He is reported to have driven to one of the country's local daily offices and requested for a pen and paper, and proceeded to pen his resignation letter in a single sentence. His actions were a protest in which he alleged he had suffered humiliation after being denied entry to the late President Daniel Moi's Kabarak home. He would later lose the 1997 parliamentary election, even though Koech was later persuaded to rescind his resignation letter and take back his job. He had made a name for himself as a principled politician. He would once again make a comeback 5 years later in 2002, where he won back his seat in joint cabinet, even though KANU, the party that sponsored him to parliament, had been obliterated in the elections. In 2004, he was appointed Minister for East African and Regional Cooperation in the Kibaki administration. In August 2004, the president handed him the chairmanship of the Sudan and Somalia peace talks. He took over the East African Community Ministry at a time when Kenya was playing the lead role in peace negotiations in Somalia and Sudan. His highlight as the negotiating team would come when the parties signed the Sudan Comprehensive Peace Agreement (CPA) in January 2005 at Nairobi's Nyayo Stadium, ending 21 years of civil war between the north and south of Sudan. He is credited with delicately juggling Kenya's interest at a time when President Kibaki was trying to chart a new chapter in foreign relations with Uganda and Tanzania, then the only members of the EAC. On 11th October 2007, he defected from KANU to Odinga's new party, Orange Democratic Movement. 5 days later, he was sacked from his ministerial position. He soon changed parties again, this time to Kalonzo Musyoka's ODM Kenya, after Isaac Ruto beat him to the ODM ticket in the party primaries. Isaac Ruto also won the Chepalungu seat in the 2007 general election. After his 2007 defeat and a half-hearted run for the Bomet governorship in 2013, he retired from active politics, content that he had done his best for his constituents and his country. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Indeed, you're watching Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Megu. Welcome back. And now we shift gears onto another very interesting conversation, timely, given that we are in the festivities. And this is a time when families come together, people spend time together, and people spend. But still, it's possible. Is it possible to have that fun that we want to have without breaking the bank? We found out now. And Elvin Kama, who is the Orient Asset Managers Investment Analyst, is in studio with me. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you, Mike, for having me.
Karibu sana to the program.
Asante.
You know, we are in the festive season, and this is a time when people now use, let me use the colloquial term, kusababisha. Yes. people want to spend. Why is that every December or during the festivities, people want to spend?
Now it's been a tradition now, because festivities is now a time when you've tried your best to pull things together for an year. So it's time again where families come together, festivities. Since we were children, we knew that in December it used to be quite a thing.
Yes.
So it's a moment where you come to cherish each other and enjoy the festivities. Yeah.
You know, it's a holiday, yes. But also, it needs some level of planning.
Yeah.
So how best can people plan for festivities to avoid impulse buying?
One thing with festivities, they tend to strain your finances, but as you enjoy your festivities, you need to bring a balance between enjoying the moments and having some sense of financial responsibility. If you look at impulse buying, you need to have a proper budget and see the things that you need to purchase, if they are quite essential, that will cover you through the festivities season, and ensure that you also you tend to take the opportunities of discounts that are in play in the retail space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of budgeting, does the 50-30-20 rule apply?
Yes, it does apply, but however, it needs a proper financial planning, because one, you need to have a financial plan that gives you a roadmap to ensure that you reach your goal. But again, it's key, looking at the current economy that we're living in, being that there is the high taxation, the disposable income is being depleted. It's a catch-22. But again, you have to assess your financial situation, do some opportunity cost, see what is essential, what is not, do away with the non-essential, keep the essentials at hand, and plan well. Yeah.
You've spoken of assessing your financial situation, especially during this time. What is the essence of that? What is the importance attached to it? Yes.
The key essence and the objectivity towards it is to avoid spillage of funds that you could be using into other resourceful needs in your day-to-day life. Yeah.
So how do you divide your budget? Are there things that you are supposed to direct more funds to, or just because it's festivities, it's a one-fits-all kind of an approach?
No. For the festivities, because you see, life has to go on. Your bills want to go on a holiday. They're still waiting for you in January. So you have to be very keen on where you put your funds. So, for example, for the December income that you'll be receiving, but again, you see, the door is open for everyone to have a dynamic budget, because your spending won't be the same as mine. But again, the base is the income, and you have to foresee the bills in January so that you don't fall into credit, because also credit plays a big part. So don't enslave yourself into credit because of non-planning in December. Yeah.
But do you think people really plan, most, if not all, do you think they really plan for December, or it just comes and due to the spur of the moment, people get carried away?
It's quite interesting. But I believe most of the Kenyans have been quite very well educated in matters of investments and proper planning, because we believe spilling into the new year, probably from 2023 spilling into 2024, guys already started planning for festivities, because depending on the income that you have,
yes,
and your goal, because you find that in investments people have different goals, because you might have your emergency fund, you have funds for festivities, and also you have the recurrent expenditures that go on month. Yeah.
It's actually, you have mentioned something to do with financial goal. It was my next question. How do you ensure that your festivities finances now align to your financial goals? Because at the end of the day, school fees is waiting.
So one key thing is being objective in your goals, and dividing your budget, having a proper clear line that these expenses are monthly, and I'm aiming at having maybe X for Easter, X for December festivities. But again, one thing with festivities, as the onset I said, it's usually strains your funds if it's not properly planned.
Yes.
Because if you look at festivities, what people tend to purchase are non-perishable. Because if it's a Christmas tree, if it's the jingle bells, if it's gifts, so you could purchase them quite earlier when it's off season, because now when the demand is quite low, and so there is supply but there is no demand, because people had not foresighted for the festivities. So one of the mitigating things that you could do against any excess spending towards the festivities is to purchase non-perishable goods during the off-peak season. Yeah,
and that also circles back to budgeting.
Yes,
you have to budget prior. Now, lifestyle, people have different lifestyles, but what role do they play in as far as spending monies on Christmas and holidays is concerned?
Despite having the different lifestyle, we'll notice that in Kenya in particular, it revolves around traveling, spending time with family, feasting, there is and gifting. So depending on the lifestyle or on the pyramid where you are on the society, again it revolves around proper planning and proper budgeting of your financial resources, and foreseeing the expected bills that you need to foresee in January for 2025.
Yes. Now, there's something about being with many people. There's that. How do you stand your ground and stick to your financial goals? How do you stand your ground? Because sometimes you get to a point where you're with people, you're excited, but on the other hand, you spend the monies that you had not even planned to use. How do you stand your ground? Yes.
The key point will be you need to see what is the key need and what is the want.
Yes.
You need to differentiate between the two. And despite having people around and enjoying and cherishing the moments, it has to be proper aligned again with the budget.
Yes.
So don't go overboard.
Yes.
If there need be, then you can also try and pull in funds together from the different ex-families and have an enjoyable moment without really straining yourself.
There's also you've mentioned a key need and a want. You differentiate between the two. Then there is something to do with small expenses that you are not tracking. What are the dangers to that? Small expenses that you have not, you think, this will not dent my financial. What is the dangers of not tracking those things?
In financial planning and investments, you see, they usually are saying that a small leak can drown a big ship.
Yes.
So despite having a proper budget, the small miscellaneous expenses have to keep track of them, And don't make sure not to tap into your emergency fund or funds that are needed for any need spilling into 2025, because the small expenses usually add up to a very huge amount. And that's why at the outset I was saying, try to take advantage of discounts that are there in the retail space so that you can have some surplus so that you can spend on the miscellaneous when need be.
Yeah. Is there a savings plan that one can apply, or a specific savings plan that one can apply during these times?
During these times, yes. You can... the good thing with the digital space is that it has provided a financial inclusivity whereby you can properly plan for your needs, because I believe even once you do your budget and see that these are the expenses that are in line with what I want for the festivities, I believe now even through the USSD, you can also try, and if you dial maybe, for instance, our money market fund, if you dial *273#, that's how you can start your investment journey. So you can put money aside and say, this will be money set aside for January expenses or even for Easter.
And that even applies, there's something you can start January and you plan for, let's say December 2025 festivities. You can start as early as January.
You can start as early as now.
You know, one of the things that takes financial toll during festivities is gift giving.
Yes.
Why should it be moderated?
Gift giving, it can be, let me not say moderated, but again, it can take advantage of the off-peak season. If you want to gift your kids, if you want to gift your nieces, your nephews, your parents, take advantage of the off-peak season. You can purchase them, because I know these days there is usually a purchasing plan for most of in the retail space, whereby you can lipa pole pole. You can start early during the off-peak, take advantage of that off-peak season, so that you can get a discounted price, rather than have to rush towards the December. Now kids are there pushing you around, so you need to proper plan and take advantage of the off-peak season.
You know, there's a time, yes, we agree that people are spending.
Yes.
But also there's the danger of getting into financial stress, that is, in other words, debt.
Yes.
How do you avoid that pitfall during this time?
In the current economy, truth be told, with the rise of, we can see that there is a rise of digital lenders. And also disposable income shrinking. Again, it narrows down to having a financial goal within a particular point in time, to avoid a situation where you have to rely on debt to fund an expense, ideally because it's an expense during the festivities. So if you get into investments and get into a money market fund, having a goal whereby you say, for example, that this I'm saving towards festivities for example 2025, you can start as early as now and ensure that you cushion yourself from any debt need that might arise.
Yes. You have mentioned money market funds several times. Talk a little bit about them and how they can be helpful, not only saving for festivities, but general investment.
A money market fund is just key, and over the years we've seen it rise among Kenyans. Kenyans taking interest in money market funds because there is need of having a goal, and it's more wealth creation and investing in your dream, because I believe each and everyone, you have an objective that there's something you need to achieve. If it's trying to ensure that you to build a house maybe at the end of the year. You want to purchase a premium for your car for next year. You need, again, festivities. You have maybe exams that you need to sit for. So it gives you a clear direction and a roadmap on where you want to see yourself within a certain duration. Again, it brings about liquidity, whereby you can access your funds at any given point in time, capital appreciation, and also it can be said it's seen to be an eighth wonder of the world, whereby you see compounding of your funds having an exponential growth of a certain longevity of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
How are they in terms of risk?
I can say that they're minimum or moderate, because again, it really depends on the asset classes or the investment securities in which the underlying fund manager has invested in. But again, we do have a very strong authority, the regulator, CMA, who ensures that the funds of the investors are being managed well, and to ensure that the investors are very well protected. Yeah.
Have they gained traction amongst the people, especially within the country?
Yeah, it has gained traction a lot, because if you look at the rise of TikTok, we see that here and there guys talking about MMFs everywhere. In TikTok, on most social media platforms, but I believe TikTok has really played a big role, mainly penetrating into the market, positioning themselves mostly in the next investors who are the Gen Z, who are now getting to know what financial freedom is and the role it can play towards financial freedom. Again, we see that even through our platform, for example, just as I said, if you dial *273# is where you can start your journey as soon as possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the financial literacy is rising amongst people.
Yes.
Now, as we come to a close of this discussion, how can people make festivities meaningful without focusing solely on material gifts?
It can. It's possible without really looking at, because festivities is not about materiality. It's about spending time with family and enjoying life, because not so many people started the year in January 2024 who are still with us towards the festivities. So it's more of the little that you have, the little that you've saved, looking that the economy is quite tough, just to cherish the moment. But again, as you enjoy the moments, you have to ensure that this financial responsibility aligned to it.
Smart money management skills. Your final remarks?
As we head towards the festivities season, all Kenyans to enjoy, to enjoy their families, but again to remember that the bills are waiting in January, to spend prudently and to enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
To come to Good Morning Kenya and talk about festive finances.
Asante sana.
And I hope you who is watching Good Morning Kenya has learned a thing or two about spending and saving during this festive season. This is where we end this conversation and the entire Good Morning Kenya program for today. My name is Mike Migwi. Thank you for tuning in. Keep it KBC Channel 1. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Say bye-bye to FOMO, the fear of missing out, by downloading the KBC Online app that gives you access to everything you love. Get the latest news, sport, music, entertainment news, live radio, and so much more at the palm of your hand. To get the app, simply search KBC Mobile Digital App in your Google Play or App Store and download the app. Catch what you want, anytime, anywhere. Stay connected. Stay ahead with KBC Mobile Digital App.
Remember Iron Man's assistant Jarvis? A program like TongTong is a first step in that direction. But why make it a child? Isn't that just weird? Well, if a fully developed AGI resembles an adult, TongTong's capabilities put her at about the level of a 4-year-old, according to her developers. And of course, the childlike appearance might just be PR. People fear super intelligent AI, but love children. Yay! All right, so why should you care? Back to Jarvis. Think of an AI assistant that can perform multiple tasks. It answers an email for you, books you a doctor's appointment, and brews you a coffee when you're tired. Doesn't sound too bad to me. But these algorithms won't just be personal assistants. A fully autonomous AI could replace human workers in a number of fields, for example, in customer service or finance. But as we all know from playing around with the likes of ChatGPT, no matter how well developed the algorithm, it can sometimes produce complete nonsense. And you may not even notice. So an AI model acting autonomously and making mistakes could put lives at risk. Take the medical field, for example. Imagine an AGI assisting with surgeries, diagnosis, or treatment. But if it gets something wrong without expert supervision, patients' health could be compromised. So we need to find ways to minimize the risks. And as we move closer to algorithms almost indistinguishable from humans, we might need to be rethinking our relationship with AI. An AI child might seem a little eerie at first, but it could actually be an option for people who can't have children. Or it might help parents who lost their child deal with grief. With enough data, they could even rebuild their lost child as a digital entity. Whether that would be ethically justifiable is another matter. But here again, we need to think about protection from AI's flaws. Imagine your virtual child suddenly changing personality. It could also just stop working entirely, and the emotional consequences for you could be severe. And forming an emotional bond with an AI that can think independently and develop emotions brings up a whole new set of questions. Is it ethically okay to say it's just a machine? Or do we need to think about something like AI rights? All right, that is certainly a lot to wrap your head around. Do we even want such a future? Let us know what you think. Has Elon Musk just made telepathy possible? A wireless brain chip named telepathy has been successfully implanted in a human. At least that's what the US tech billionaire announced on X. Basically, Musk's goal is to connect human brains to computers and let users communicate with digital devices via their thoughts. Sounds very futuristic. Still, how much of a breakthrough is it really? And what's in it for you? So-called BCIs can measure brain activity and translate it into digital commands. If you were using such a device, you could, in theory, communicate with digital devices in a completely new and seamless way. As Musk puts it, telepathy would enable you to control your phone or computer and, through them, almost any device, just by thinking. Does that sound intriguing? Well, there's a big downside. Musk's chip has to be implanted in your brain. The surgery is conducted by a robot. It connects 64 flexible threads, thinner than a human hair, from the chip to the brain. For people with diseases or disabilities, this invasive procedure might be worth it though. For example, if you're suffering from epilepsy, BCIs can detect a potential seizure in advance and could help avoid it. Musk himself mentions other possibilities in his tweet. Initial users will be those who have lost the use of their limbs. Imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or auctioneer. Well, the late Cambridge genius would most probably have liked the technology and benefited from it. And in general, BCIs have huge potential in the medical field. Stephen Hawking was suffering from ALS, a fatal type of motor neuron disease. It is characterized by progressive degeneration of nerve cells. People affected by it lose their motoric capabilities. A BCI could have enabled Hawking to type text with his thoughts, but this isn't something Musk's business Neuralink has invented. There are other companies that have already conducted successful human trials. Australian-funded company Synchron, for example. Other researchers are even building neural connections between brain implants and muscles. In May 2023, Swiss company NeuroRestore managed to help a man walk again, whose legs were paralyzed after an accident. By the way, these two examples have a big advantage over the Neuralink model. While they also need to be implanted in a patient's head, the surgery needed is far less invasive. So, why does Musk's Neuralink get so much hype? Musk is by no means the first to do it, despite the hype. But so far, there hasn't been a person with a clout comparable to Musk's pushing the technology. Musk didn't even shy away from turning animal testing into PR events. In 2020, he introduced Gertrude, a pig with an implanted Neuralink chip. And in 2021, he boasted about Pager, a monkey that could play the video game Pong with his thoughts via a chip implant. Apart from that, he has made some pretty steep predictions about the possibilities of the technology. We can save and replay memories. The future is going to be weird, he said, at the 2020 Neuralink event, for example. Musk seems determined to hack our brains, and he believes that BCIs can improve individuals far beyond the medical benefits. But would you let a Musk-run company literally drill into your brain? There's a lot at stake. Just think of all the sensitive data that is potentially recorded while tapping into your thoughts. What do you think of Musk's BCI ventures? Let us know. Have you tried any of these generative AI programs where you give it a few words and it spits out an image? Now software is turning text prompts into video. It's super realistic, but also sometimes super dangerous. Also on the show, an AI child. Is that sweet and cute or just creepy? Researchers in China have really created one. And would you accept a brain chip from Elon Musk? Because one person did. There could be surprising medical benefits and major privacy risks. These are the topics that are moving the tech world. Aren't these cute? These golden retriever puppies have been created with Sora, an AI program that creates videos out of text prompts that everybody is talking about. And no wonder, just note how realistic the puppy's fur in this video looks. And then compare that to this AI-generated beer commercial from May 2023. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that generative AI technology could have evolved that quickly in less than a year. Sora was developed by OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT. And Sora could soon enable anyone to produce amazing movies with just a few prompts. But what does it mean for you when artificial intelligence can generate videos that look deceivingly real? An AI quantum leap? If you've ever played around with video AI on your phone, you know that it often looks quite unrealistic. Now OpenAI has taken video to the next level. They claim that Sora can create realistic, short AI clips. All you need to do is type in a prompt. That means a short description of what you want to see. You could, for example, type in tour of an art gallery with many beautiful works of art in different styles, and Sora might come up with this result. That sounds very easy. However, some prompts might need to be more specific. The one for this car ride through the mountains, for example, looks like this. Wow, that's a lot of text. Nevertheless, the possibilities are mind-blowing. Just think about the entertainment industry. Special effects scenes that currently require dozens of programmers could be produced by only a handful of people with good prompting skills. Unfortunately, we couldn't try out Sora. Access is strictly limited for now. One of the reasons cited by OpenAI is the danger of so-called deepfakes. They have been around for quite some time already. For example, in the form of deepfake porn. Just recently, fake explicit pictures of Taylor Swift appeared online, but there have been many, mainly female, targets before her. With a little know-how, someone could also easily produce fake nudes of you using photos that are accessible online, maybe from your Instagram account. But deepfakes have also been used in political contexts. Remember this one of Donald Trump getting arrested? Their impact on society could be devastating. Deepfakes might make it very difficult for us to tell what's real and what's not in the future, and make us vulnerable to all kinds of manipulation. To make sure Sora can't be used for these purposes, OpenAI has strictly limited access to it. Currently, special teams are testing whether Sora's security functions and restrictions are working correctly. In fact, all generative AI systems, including Sora, Stable Diffusion, and ChatGPT, need good security functions and restrictions. If not, they can be used for horrible things. You might remember this case from ChatGPT. A user managed to get the chatbot to give him instructions on how to build a bomb. Normally, security features should prevent this, but he got around them by telling ChatGPT to take on the role of his grandmother and tell him a bedtime story about how she used to build bombs when she was younger. The dangers of generative AI are real. So, what is being done about it? In Sora's case, OpenAI has announced a rather robust security protocol, though. They want to watermark content that is produced with Sora in a way that the metadata will reveal that the content is AI-generated. A built-in text classifier will check and reject prompts that request extreme violence, sexual content, hateful imagery, celebrity likeness, or the intellectual properties of others. They also say that they have developed reliable image classifiers that review every single frame of a generated video before it's shown to the user. Is Sora really that convincing? Well, as spectacular as many examples on Sora's homepage look, OpenAI admits that the program still has some flaws. Compared to AI photo generators, AI video generators have to learn a lot more. They need to know what objects look like, but they also need to apply the laws of physics to know how stuff moves and understand how lighting changes in a moving scene. And Sora just doesn't get all of that yet. That's why this guy is running on the treadmill in the wrong direction. Or why this chair suddenly comes to life. Nevertheless, if I saw this clip of an elderly man on social media or this drone footage of Italy's Amalfi Coast, I'd probably assume it was real footage. And with regard to creating fake content that people want you to believe, that is a problem. What do you think? Are you looking forward to creating your own crazy AI videos soon? Or do you think that the risks of generative AI outweigh its benefits? Let us know. First, there were AI girlfriends and AI pets. Now, researchers in China have created an AI child. Yep, you heard that right. But before we freak out, let's explore what this all means. Meet Tong Tong, the virtual child developed by the Beijing Institute for General Artificial Intelligence. The avatar can hold a natural conversation, understand context, and maintain coherence. Okay, so what? ChatGPT can do this too. What sets Tong Tong apart is her ability to learn, adapt, and interact with her virtual environment. She can also recognize and respond to human emotions. The demo showed her perform simple tasks: clean up a spill, straighten a crooked picture frame, or grab a chair to reach a higher spot, all without a human instructing her to do so. Her creators hope to one day achieve artificial general intelligence, or AGI, an AI capable of all human characteristics: autonomous cognition, decision-making, social interaction, and emotions, for example. Remember Iron Man's assistant Jarvis? A program like Tong Tong is a first step in that direction. But why make it a child? Isn't that just weird? Well, if a fully developed AGI resembles an adult, Tong Tong's capabilities put her at about the level of a 4-year-old, according to her developers. And of course, the childlike appearance might just be PR. People fear super intelligent AI, but love children. All right, so why should you care? Have you tried any of these generative AI programs where you give it a few words and it spits out an image? Now software is turning text prompts into video. It's super realistic, but also sometimes super dangerous. Also on the show, an AI child. Is that sweet and cute or just creepy? Researchers in China have really created one. And would you accept a brain chip from Elon Musk? Because one person did. There could be surprising medical benefits and major privacy risks. These are the topics that are moving the tech world. Aren't these cute? These golden retriever puppies have been created with Sora, an AI program that creates videos out of text prompts that everybody is talking about. And no wonder, just note how realistic the puppy's fur in this video looks. And then compare that to this AI-generated beer commercial from May 2023. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that generative AI technology could have evolved that quickly in less than a year. Sora was developed by OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT. And Sora could soon enable anyone to produce amazing movies with just a few prompts. But what does it mean for you when artificial intelligence can generate videos that look deceivingly real? An AI quantum leap? If you've ever played around with video AI on your phone, you know that it often looks quite unrealistic. Now OpenAI has taken video to the next level. They claim that Sora can create realistic, short AI clips. All you need to do is type in a prompt. That means a short description of what you want to see. You could, for example, type in tour of an art gallery with many beautiful works of art in different styles, and Sora might come up with this result. That sounds very easy. However, some prompts might need to be more specific. The one for this car ride through the mountains, for example, looks like this. Wow, that's a lot of text. Nevertheless, the possibilities are mind-blowing. Just think about the entertainment industry. Special effects scenes that currently require dozens of programmers could be produced by only a handful of people with good prompting skills. Unfortunately, we couldn't try out Sora. Access is strictly limited for now. One of the reasons cited by OpenAI is the danger of so-called deepfakes. They have been around for quite some time already. For example, in the form of deepfake porn. Just recently, fake explicit pictures of Taylor Swift appeared online, but there have been many, mainly female, targets before her. With a little know-how, someone could also easily produce fake nudes of you using photos that are accessible online, maybe from your Instagram account. But deepfakes have also been used in political contexts. Remember this one of Donald Trump getting arrested? Their impact on society could be devastating. Deepfakes might make it very difficult for us to tell what's real and what's not in the future, and make us vulnerable to all kinds of manipulation. To make sure Sora can't be used for these purposes, OpenAI has strictly limited access to it. Currently, special teams are testing whether Sora's security functions and restrictions are working correctly. In fact, all generative AI systems, including Sora, Stable Diffusion, and ChatGPT, need good security functions and restrictions. If not, they can be used for horrible things. You might remember this case from ChatGPT. A user managed to get the chatbot to give him instructions on how to build a bomb. Normally, security features should prevent this, but he got around them by telling ChatGPT to take on the role of his grandmother and tell him a bedtime story about how she used to build bombs when she was younger. The dangers of generative AI are real. So, what is being done about it? In Sora's case, OpenAI has announced a rather robust security protocol, though. They want to watermark content that is produced with Sora in a way that the metadata will reveal that the content is AI-generated. A built-in text classifier will check and reject prompts that request extreme violence, sexual content, hateful imagery, celebrity likeness, or the intellectual properties of others. They also say that they have developed reliable image classifiers that review every single frame of a generated video before it's shown to the user. Is Sora really that convincing? Well, as spectacular as many examples on Sora's homepage look, OpenAI admits that the program still has some flaws. Compared to AI photo generators, AI video generators have to learn a lot more. They need to know what objects look like, but they also need to apply the laws of physics to know how stuff moves and understand how lighting changes in a moving scene. And Sora just doesn't get all of that yet. That's why this guy is running on the treadmill in the wrong direction. Or why this chair suddenly comes to life. Nevertheless, if I saw this clip of an elderly man on social media or this drone footage of Italy's Amalfi Coast, I'd probably assume it was real footage. And with regard to creating fake content that people want you to believe, that is a problem. What do you think? Are you looking forward to creating your own crazy AI videos soon? Or do you think that the risks of generative AI outweigh its benefits? Let us know. First, there were AI girlfriends and AI pets. Now, researchers in China have created an AI child. Yep, you heard that right. But before we freak out, let's explore what this all means. Meet Tong Tong, the virtual child developed by the Beijing Institute for General Artificial Intelligence. The avatar can hold a natural conversation, understand context, and maintain coherence. Okay, so what? ChatGPT can do this too. What sets TongTong apart is her ability to learn, adapt, and interact with her virtual environment. She can also recognize and respond to human emotions. The demo showed her perform simple tasks: clean up a spill, straighten a crooked picture frame, or grab a chair to reach a higher spot, all without a human instructing her to do so. Her creators hope to one day achieve artificial general intelligence, or AGI, an AI capable of all human characteristics: autonomous cognition, decision-making, social interaction, and emotions, for example.
Say bye-bye to FOMO, the fear of missing out, by downloading the KBC Online app that gives you access to everything you love. Get the latest news, sport, music, entertainment news, live radio, and so much more at the palm of your hands. To get the app, simply search KBC Mobile Digital app in your Google Play or App Store and download the app. Catch what you want, anytime, anywhere. Stay connected. Stay ahead with KBC Mobile Digital app.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima kupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Well, it is a meeting that people across the country are talking about. It is the Ishaweri Summit, where the 4th and the 5th met yesterday to discuss a number of issues following the statement issued both by State House in Nairobi as well as former President Uhuru Kenyatta's communication team, of course, led by Kanze Dena. And of course, the president, that is William Ruto, was able to touch upon what is happening in the country and how it can be resolved, with former President Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, having an input on how to resolve some of those issues. That is what we're going to discuss in the first hour. And in the second hour, also we'll be discussing the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, which has been a discourse both in the political circles as well as the